Oh man, DailyWEE! Wee here, it's We Equal Energy. I just laid down some truth just before this, and I didn't have the camera rolling, so I'll probably never be able to get that back. Probably never be able to get it back, but I'm gonna try. So my thought basically I just said, life is hard. Life is hard. It's life. It's hard. But that's okay. But it's okay that it's hard because that's what it is. It's hard. So then when it's hard, and you could be like, well, that's what life is. So cool. That's how it is. Nice. All right, it's perfect. It's exactly how it's supposed to be. But then when there's times when it's like easier and it's not as hard, then you're like, wow, this is cool. It's kind of easy right now. And you could be kind of excited about it, right? So you could accept it, that it's hard, and then you can be excited when it's not as hard. That's pretty simple. Seems pretty simple. It seems simple. It's a simple concept. But with that said, I think it's a massively hard concept to wrap your brain around. I struggled with it for a lot of years, mostly because I didn't really even know that I was, because all you know is what you know. You don't know what you don't know, because you don't know it. So if you can start to observe how you perceive the world and how you look at the world, and can find a way through action, through self-reflection, self-awareness, which is easier said than done. If and I'm not saying, maybe for you'd be like, oh, self-awareness, okay, self-awareness, and look up in the dictionary, self-awareness means this, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, okay, self-aware, oh, okay, boom. Maybe that's all it would take for you. I was a little more dense. I was a little harder headed. I think I was a bit more stubborn. I think some of my social or my conditioning was super embedded, super deep, and super strong of resistance. And guess what, everybody? It's subconscious. So you know what that means? It's it's below your consciousness. You can't see it unless you really look for it. And when you look for it, usually it doesn't let you see it because it's painful and it's hard to change. So that's why if you go through that, then you start to see patterns, you start to see some of this stuff, and you're like, I remember when I could start to see it, and it took a long time, right? A lot of self-reflection, a lot of like journaling, and like pages upon pages of journaling to figure out, what am I even thinking? How come I don't even know? It's like, how do you feel about this? I don't know. I didn't know, because I didn't know for a long time. And now I know. That doesn't mean necessarily, I could know how. Now, then the thing is then you have to like learn how to socially, because we are in a social construct here, and there are social ways to behave to a certain extent. And if you behave outside of those social norms, it's going to be more difficult for people to hear, understand you, to maybe relate to you. So you still have to kind of learn then how to, it's like there's this thing, what's your biggest weakness? My honesty. I don't think honesty can be a weakness. And then the person's like, I don't give a shit what you think. I don't care what the hell you think. So, yeah, so there's that. So it's, there can be that where you kind of, the other side of it is it's subconscious. It's also perspective. And a lot of times you don't have a perspective that's very, you can justify, right? You can justify why, if somebody in a situation, if you're struggling in a situation, you can justify that it's not you, it's the other person. But then if you start looking around and you start to see that, wow, I'm struggling with people here, and I'm struggling with people here, and I'm struggling with people here, guess what? actually any of your struggles with other people, it's you. So it's about getting out of here and then getting away from that, and then doing the opposite of what, if you're using the term struggle throughout your day, man, I tell you, if you're struggling, you're your own worst enemy. And the only way to get out of that struggle is to let go. But again, that's such a, people say, drop the sword, give up, surrender. That's so easier said than done. It's a process of eliminating this ego and this idea that it's you and that you are right or justified in how your thing is. But you're going to have tendencies toward things, right? You're going to have, you can get to a place where you're like, yeah, everything's cool. And everything is cool. Totally, everything is cool. But then there's going to be people out there who are, what do you call it? Like, how do I say this? They go for causes and, to stand up for people who are, and there's nothing wrong with that stuff. And what I mean is there's nothing wrong with that stuff in one sense, that it's exactly how it's supposed to be. And then there's going to be a percentage of the population who have a very strong pull to I'm going to help with this. And then there's going to be people who are not. And then there's going to be ranges within that. There's going to be people who commit their whole life to that. And that's where they're being pulled toward, right? That's what they're supposed to be doing. Then there's going to be variations and levels of that. And where you're at is where you're at. So, but if you get to a place where you realize that it's all as it should be, you may get to a place where you're just like, okay, I'm just going to you can just kind of sit back and exist. You probably won't, because you'll probably have, you're going to be raised in a certain society, raised with certain ideals, raised with principles and you're in a society, so you're going to have tendencies towards things. So you'll probably still have tendencies towards things to do and be involved. I recently went to a summit, or not a summit, but a climate change thing. And I believe the climate is changing. That's my belief. But I also believe that given the current situation, that it's not going to change. But I also believe that there's people out there who are really into trying to make it change, and that's exactly what they're supposed to be doing. I don't know. I don't necessarily, my personal opinion on it is I don't necessarily see it changing. I don't see us changing. It'd have to be a huge fundamental shift, which could happen. I kind of see it as being that it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be it's going to be a fundamental shift in the size of the population. I mean, I think there's just going to be a huge culling of the population, and some people are going to live and some people aren't. I don't know. That's what happens. What are you going to do? You're going to hold back the ocean? Probably not. Can't really, it's tough. It's really hard to do. With that said, like I said, I still went to this thing, even though I am kind of, maybe in that sense I am a bit of a fatalist, but at the same time I'm not, because I also believe in less me personally, and it's how I live my life, and it's the message that I do share, and it's something obviously is inside of me that wants to share it, is this idea about we equal energy, is this idea about using less and doing more physically, getting out of, obviously I love technology, I'm using this phone and I'm going to be putting us on YouTube and Instagram, but at the same time there's a time and a place for them, right? So it's what was I just saying? I just got a text message, so it kind of threw me. So I guess what I'm saying is that I personally believe that we could do something about climate change, but we my guess is you're not going to be able to convince. I mean, we're heading in a direction. We've made choices years back, 20, 30 years back, and we're on a trajectory. Unless there's a huge shift in like public perception. And for me, that is you consuming less, and all I can do is do that myself. But then at the same time, all I can do is spread that message, and I feel very strongly about doing that, even though, but that's I feel like that's my place. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm supposed to be doing, and that's what I'm going to share. So I don't think that like these climate change things, it's necessarily something that it's going to have to change on a fundamental level at the human level. We need to seriously look at the way what we feel is with the marketing that people have been marketed to about consume. We have to change that, like drastically. Consume less, enjoy more of like what we have in life. Stop putting so much money into like this frivolities of whatever these things are. Live simpler and walk more. All this stuff, right? I mean, people are gonna still travel, and there's, people are gonna do that. But there's so many things that we could seriously be like, let's change the way that we do this. I don't know what that looks like, because a lot of people are gonna lose jobs, because it's gonna be a lot less consumerism. So ultimately, I don't think it's gonna happen, because no one's gonna want to do that, because everybody thinks in the short term. But in the short term, long term-ish, something big is going to happen, and then there's not going to be a choice. It's just going to be like, boom, there's 80% of you guys gone, 20% are alive. Okay, maybe I'll be part of that, maybe I won't. I don't know. Whatever it is happens is supposed to be what's supposed to happen. So that's it. That's my rant. Binge of the Body Whisperer out. Keep moving, people. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.